US and Azerbaijani officials say a passenger plane that crashed in Kazakhstan on Wednesday was hit by weapons fire. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby cited, quote, early indications that Russian air defense systems hit the Azerbaijan Airlines jet before it crashed. Now, this comes after Azerbaijan's transport minister contradicted Russian statements about the disaster.
Video of damage to the aircraft's tail section shows impact holes officials are linking to anti-aircraft fire.
The initial conclusion of the Azerbaijani side is that there was definitely external interference in this incident. However, our investigation team and the aviation experts involved in the case will determine what type of weapon or missile was used.
Survivors of the crash described two large bangs as the Azerbaijan Airlines plane approached the Chechen capital.
After the bang, after the masks fell out, I saw that the fuselage was slightly damaged, and then I got scared. I thought that the plane would fall apart, that it would decompress and fall apart right now. I was already getting ready for the plane to disintegrate.
We realized that the impact outside the plane had caused injuries. I myself was injured in my arm. One passenger was also hurt in the leg. At that moment, the impact inside caused injuries. There were people who panicked, and we tried to calm them down.
Russian aviation authorities say a Ukrainian drone attack was underway near the plane's intended destination at Grozny Airport in Chechnya.
At that time, Ukrainian combat drones were carrying out terrorist attacks on civilian infrastructure in the cities of Grozny and Vladikavkaz. The so-called culprit alert level was activated in the Grozny area, which means all aircraft were ordered to leave the area. In addition, there was dense fog around Grozny Airport.
According to Russian officials, the airliner attempted 2 landings in Grozny before the pilot decided to divert across the Caspian Sea to Kazakhstan. The brave effort to land the damaged plane ended just outside the Kazakh city of Aktau. In Azerbaijan, mourners gathered to bury one of the victims of the crash, the first memorial for one of 38 people killed, as the investigation into who bears responsibility continues.
I'm now joined by Stephen Wright. He is head of aviation and transport at the Technological University of Dublin. Good to have you with us, Stephen. Now, we're hearing officials from Azerbaijan and the US, as well as Russian military bloggers, saying they believe Russian air defense was responsible. What evidence would point to this?
Good morning, Tommy. The aircraft that we can see is peppered around the rear of the aircraft. Vertical stabilizer, horizontal stabilizer, and also around the APU exhaust. And we can see a number of these small holes, which is typical of a missile that detonates a distance from the aircraft and it punctures the aircraft throughout, causing catastrophic damage typically.
All right, investigators will be studying the flight data recorders. What would they get from this that would confirm the cause of the crash?
Well, if we look at what happened with MH17, which was the shoot down of Malaysian Airlines in, wasn't it around 2014, in Ukraine, they will be able to hear the aircraft flying. The aircraft is actually fitted with numbers of microphones, and they will hear the detonation sounds caused by the missiles exploding and the damage that it then creates. And they will also corroborate that with the digital flight data recorder, which will then demonstrate that certain systems will then be failing and the flight crew will then be struggling to control the aircraft.
Right. And now several airlines have suspended flights to parts of Russia. Is this the kind of response you'd expect?
Yes, the airlines typically do not like to fly into areas where there are conflict. Usually when this sort of stuff happens, all domestic airlines, all passenger activity ceases. And we saw that when the Ukraine war started some 2 years ago. The first thing that happened is all the airlines stopped flying to Ukraine because of the serious risk of basically these types of events from transpiring, because effectively nobody wants to shoot down a commercial plane. There's very little to be gained from this. But unfortunately, because the aircraft are so much larger than military aircraft, the systems that the anti-aircraft systems aren't necessarily always able to distinguish between a little fighter and a huge aircraft, commercial aircraft.
Are there any safety measures that the industry, I'm talking about the commercial airline industry, would need to consider maybe adopting as a result of these kinds of incidents?
Well, I don't think so. That as I said, most airlines, when there's troubles taking place in a given region, they just stop flying there. And they will only resume flights to certain areas when all hostilities and the danger has been rescinded. So that's the principle. Now, there's one carrier that does fit their aircraft with countermeasures, and that is El Al. But it's the only airline that I know of, and they have a very different strategy to pretty much everybody else in the market.
Okay. Stephen Wright, we appreciate your time and insights. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Let's get more on this from our correspondent in Riga, Sergei Satanovsky. DW has been reporting from Riga since Russian authorities shut down our offices in Moscow. Sergei, what are the Azerbaijani officials saying from what you've heard?
So the Minister of Transport is actually the first Azerbaijani official to state about external interference in this crash. He also mentioned that holes were visible on the wing of the plane and damages both inside and outside the plane caused by various, as he said, cutting tools. Azerbaijan Airlines also said earlier that the plane was hit by physical and external interference. They also stopped flights to some Russian regions affected by Ukrainian drones. However, the airline hasn't said what caused the interference, but the Azerbaijani government seems to have someone in mind to blame for the crash. For now, they're sharing their position through anonymous sources in both Western and Azerbaijani media. For example, unnamed Azerbaijani officials told the media that the plane was mistakenly hit by the Russian air defense system Panzer S. Some sources in the president's office say they expect the recognition of this fact, an apology and compensation from Russia.
And how's Russia responding to all of this?
Well, Russia hasn't said much about it. The highest-ranking official to speak so far is a Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, but he didn't comment on the claims of a Russian strike and said that everyone should just wait for the investigation in Kazakhstan to finish. At the same time, there seems to be a sign of yielding to pressure. Dmitry Yadrov, the head of Russian Civil Aviation Authority, finally shared more details about the crash. He said that the weather conditions in Grozny that morning were complicated, that the airport was closed for departures and arrivals, and all aircraft in that area had to leave it due to a Ukrainian drone attack.
And of course, with all this back and forth going on, how is Russian media covering the incident?
That's a good question, actually, because here we have to distinguish between Russian state-run media and pro-Kremlin military bloggers. So the state media seem to downplay the incident. For example, they don't mention the main theory behind the crash, that the crash was caused by a strike from Russia's air defense system. Instead, they're focusing on explanations like a bird strike. At the same time, we're seeing Russian military bloggers who gained actually massive audiences after Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, and they often push Kremlin narratives. But now many of the most popular ones are saying they believe the plane was hit by Russian anti-aircraft system. But interestingly, some of them doubt that anyone in Chechnya responsible for this mistake will face any punishment. So we're just going to see what's going to come next. But now we see this difference between the Russian state media and the Russian military bloggers who oftentimes support pro-Kremlin narratives.
Okay. DW correspondent Sergei Satanovsky in Riga. Thank you.